It's time for the Sunday Politics, where you are.
Hello, welcome to Sunday Politics East. I'm Stuart White. Later in the programme, we take a trip from east to west to see how the Chancellor could make a difference in the budget on Wednesday.
In Great Yarmouth, we are right here out on the edge of England, and without that major infrastructure investment, we are without the possibility of expanding.
Well, with us this week, Dave Hodgson, the elected Mayor of Bedford, and Mark Lancaster, Defence Minister and MP for Milton Keynes. 50 years after it was established as a new town, Milton Keynes wants to revamp 7 housing estates. The whole scheme would cost £1 billion. There'll be a local referendum, believed to be the first of its kind, to be held before work starts. The scheme could include the building of up to 1,250 new homes, and some of those could be built on existing green spaces. Here's Andy Holmes.
Barry Wild on the Fuller Slade estate, which is surrounded by a large green space. I've come to see why it's now at risk of redevelopment.
Morning, Barry.
Hi, Andy.
Nice to meet you.
Andrew. Yeah.
Right, should we go and have a look?
Yeah,
This is one of the estates in Milton Keynes earmarked for regeneration. It's a long-standing community which, like a lot around the town, values these communal green areas.
I love it. I've been here long enough and walk around here virtually daily. And it's just great because you're walking in the countryside. You're in a housing estate, but you're walking in the countryside. Yeah. Why would you want to get rid of this? It's a real attribute. It's quite beautiful.
There are concerns that lots more houses will be built here, as one of the ways for paying for the regeneration could be from the sale of new private property on the estate.
They've got to regenerate the estate by putting new properties to pay for the refurbishment of the old. So we've got to have 1,000+ houses to refurbish 278.
There's also worries about people having to downsize if they are moved, and residents like Tony Smith are very unhappy about their uncertain future.
Moving out, they'll have to carry me out. I just don't want to move. I won't move. Unless, of course, if I have to, I have to, but I'll be one of the last to go. Definitely.
So what do you think of what you've heard about the regeneration plans so far?
What do I think about it? It stinks for a start. So many rumours.
Here on the Fuller Slade estate, one of 7 estates in Milton Keynes that's set to be regenerated over the next 15 years, there are 453 properties, of which 278 are council owned. And it's those 278 that are set to be at the centre of this regeneration project. Helen Havens has lived here for the last 18 years and won awards for her work on the estate.
I will miss the community. We built this community, and if they decide to bring in more houses and things like this, they would destroy this community because they would put too many people on here. So yeah, it's upsetting me. It really is upsetting me. I've actually gone to meetings and I've actually broken down in tears at these meetings because we don't know ourselves as residents what's going on.
The company that might have the answers is Your MK, who are responsible for regenerating the estates.
It has to be a community-led process. We cannot be seen to be doing things to people. They have to determine what the future looks like for them. It's their community.
We've spoken to residents who are worried about green spaces disappearing.
I think you're absolutely correct. There is a significant proportion of this estate that's currently green open space. There's a lot of probably underutilised open space on the estate, and that's got to be factored into what we're determining going forward.
So it sounds like we're not ruling out building houses on some of that green space.
No, and I think it would be foolish to say that we're not.
Your MK also dispute the figure of 1,000 new homes, saying that the numbers being built haven't been decided yet. When all the questions are answered and the final plans put together, Milton Keynes Council are going to hold a referendum on the scheme. And there's a promise that those plans can be rejected.
If we can't build that trust and we go to a referendum and there's a no vote, then Milton Keynes Council has failed. Your MK has failed, and I don't want to get into that situation. And I think we're the first council to offer a binding yes-no referendum for regeneration, and I think that puts the onus on Milton Keynes Council and Your MK to get it right. I don't want to fail, but I think the backstop is that referendum to make sure we won't fail. As I say, it's a win-win situation.
By next summer, when the plans for Fuller Slade should be ready, We'll find out whether the residents actually think they're winners or not.
It's a palace, it's my palace, it's my home. Do you know what I mean? It's not just bricks and mortar, that is my home.
Why would I want to move? Be a stranger anywhere else.
Like Lancaster, somebody said in there it stinks. It's not being handled very well, is it?
Well, I think that certainly there's been issues by Milton Keynes Council about not communicating the plans very well with constituents in Milton Keynes. I think we have to accept that many of the homes in Milton Keynes were built 50 years ago as temporary housing for the workers who built the city, and there is a need to regenerate. But we do have to be really sensitive about this, and I'm very conscious that it's the right decision to have a referendum at the end of it. Also, what people don't realise is the unique way that green space is looked after in Milton Keynes through the Parks Trust. This land is not owned by Milton Keynes Council. Milton Keynes is one of the greenest cities in the United Kingdom, and we do have a practice where if green space is used, then effectively it's swapped out to maintain that balance of green space within Milton Keynes.
Just get that clear. So unless the trust says that you can build on the green space, it can't be built on.
Well, the trust effectively owns the green space. Not all the green space in Milton Keynes, but most of it. And there has been deals in the past where it has released land to be built on, but then new land, new green space is taken to compensate. So we get that balance in Milton Keynes to continue to enjoy that wonderful balance we have of being one of the greenest cities in the UK.
I suppose it depends on where that green space is, doesn't it? I mean, if you're looking at it, if it's outside your doorstep and then it's not outside your doorstep, then it's not there.
No, indeed, but I think the important thing is about the binding referendum. I think it's important it's done with the residents, not to the residents. And it sounds like that's what the council's trying to do. And it's also...
Sorry, which way are the council trying to do it as far as you're concerned?
With the residents.
With the residents.
Because it's actually the binding referendum is actually, and as Councillor Marlin said there on the clip, that it's about trying to work with them, and if they've actually failed to get the referendum, then the council and your MK have failed. So I hope they succeed in terms of making sure they work with the residents to have a satisfactory outcome for the residents and for the council.
But the repairs and the renovation have to be paid for somewhere, don't they?
Absolutely.
I mean, how do you do it? How would that be in Bedford?
Well, our stock, we transferred it to a housing association back in the 90s, so we don't have that issue. BPHA, our housing provider, does that through borrowing in terms of that, and through some regeneration as well, and selling some property. So a whole mixture of things that they do.
And in Milton Keynes it's got to be paid for somehow.
Absolutely, and there's no doubt that work needs to be done on these properties, but the crucial thing is to be sensitive. I've offered my assistance in hoping to sort of mediate through this process, but this binding referendum I think is crucial.
We would both agree that we need more houses, but it is difficult actually to get people to agree to have them outside the house.
And it's difficult to actually get to agree in the wider community in terms of when you've got some big congestion issues that are very localised, can be a great problem.
And that's the big one as far as you're concerned. Is building the houses is one thing, but actually having the infrastructure there is more important.
And infrastructure up front, so we've had promise of infrastructure, and then the house is built at the back of it, and sometimes the infrastructure hasn't arrived, and I think people feel let down by that. Well, I know people feel let down by that.
And for years, if I may, the principle in Milton Keynes has been I before E, infrastructure before expansion. We're not NIMBYs in Milton Keynes, but you must get that I, the infrastructure.
But actually, Milton Keynes was built for the car and for traffic and for infrastructure, whereas I suspect Bedford wasn't, was it?
Indeed, it wasn't planned. It's been around for about 850 years. Yeah.